It's an honor to speak at this meeting on behalf of the members of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, of which Honduras has the temporary chairmanship. And I welcome the Foreign Affairs Minister of Cuba and his delegation. Mr. President, CELAC members welcome the measures adopted in 2015 and 2016 by Cuba and the United States of America to commence the process of normalizing their diplomatic relations. This began a new chapter in the history of peace and coexistence among the nations of the Americas. However, we regret that the embargo remains a reality for the Cuban people, and for CELAC, this continues to be the main obstacle to normal development in Cuba. The report of the Secretary-General, A79/80, confirms the cost of the policy for Cuba, as it does substantial and unjustifiable harm to the well-being of the Cuban people and is contrary to the desire for peace of the peoples of Latin America and the Caribbean, as set out in the Proclamation of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace. The economic, commercial and financial embargo on Cuba is contrary to the letter, spirit, purposes and principles of the Charter of the United Nations and of international law. CELAC member states reiterate their firm rejection of the application of laws and measures that are contrary to international law, such as the Helms-Burton Act, including their extraterritorial effects, and the increasing persecution of Cuba's international financial transactions, which runs counter to the political desires of the international community. The member states of CELAC are also opposed to the unjust inclusion of Cuba on the list of state sponsors of terrorism, which, in addition to being unsubstantiated, has increased the chilling effect of embargo-related restrictions and worsened Cuba's chances of establishing commercial and financial relations with international partners. The member states of CELAC would like to underscore the special declaration on the necessity of ending the economic, commercial and financial embargo imposed by the United States against Cuba, adopted at the 8th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on the 1st of March 2024. In it, members of CELAC requested that the government of the United States abide by these successive resolutions of the General Assembly and, in response to repeated calls from the international community, put an end to the economic, commercial and financial embargo against Cuba. Furthermore, CELAC member states reiterate their deep concerns about the tightening of the policy and its rejection of the extraterritorial dimension of the embargo, which has had a severe impact on Cuba's international financial transactions and the welfare of the Cuban people. Mr. President, the Charter of the United Nations sets out rights, obligations and principles that have become part of the legal heritage of humankind, as well as of international law. They should not be violated or undermined by any member. Member states should modify their national and international actions in line with the rights, obligations and principles set out in our Charter. Mr. President, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States strongly supports the adoption of Draft Resolution A/79/L6, entitled Necessity of Ending the Economic, Commercial and Financial Embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. We underscore the inconsistency of applying unilateral coercive measures that are not supported by international law or by the letter, spirit, purposes or principles of the Charter of the United Nations. In conclusion, Mr. President, we reiterate our call on the United States of America to respond to the appeal by the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean and every region of the world and its own people to put an end once and for all to the unjust embargo imposed on Cuba. Thank you.